see you're putting.
Hello and welcome to Game and Nodes, a weekly podcast from independent validator teams. This week we have Null on, who's going to be talking all about his time racing boats in Australia. He is
Great to be here.
by his own account, and I quote from the pre-show conversation, a salty sea dog. So, no, joking aside, we have fellow validator PFC with us on the podo. Increasing our Australian quota by 100% for those counting.
Hey, welcome. Although most people don't think I'm Australian, when I'm in Australia, they actually think I'm American, which is kind of weird.
Hey, why do they think that?
Yeah, I don't buy it for a second.
I was, in downtown Queensland, going to places, and they actually thought I was a Yank. I know it, but when I'm in America, they think I'm English. So go figure.
Do you know what? When I've been in America, like I have been called Australian a whole bunch of times. What is with? Yeah,
really?
Yeah. Like I distinctly remember, like amongst a bunch. It's happened several times. Like it happened on a train once, but like really distinctly, I remember being at a Giants game in San Francisco, and the guy in the row behind us like tapped me on the shoulder and was just like, "Hey, you guys from Australia?" And I was like, "No, we're from England."
I'm going to piece together why this probably is. Bluey is an extremely popular kids' TV show, and it's Australian, and you guys say a lot of stuff similar to us in terms of the lingo, and I think they're probably picking up on your lingo and linking you to being Australian.
So
it's true. Americans aren't very educated.
Right. 17 years ago, that was. I think that's pre-Bluey.
I know then.
And it was
decidedly Australian.
This was a middle-aged black gentleman drinking beer at a ball game. I mean, I don't think he was like prime Bluey demo. I mean, he probably had kids, but like I think he was mainly.
I don't know. I think you're misrepresenting the Bluey demo. I think that's what it's targeted to.
Or is it like My Little Pony, where middle-aged men also watch it or whatever?
Mate, the furry thing is real.
For the storyline.
Just watch the storyline, man. It's no big deal. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's like quite a bit of slang in common between Brits and Aussies. I mean, PFC, to be honest, you sound a little bit like, I can kind of see maybe that in Oz, people would be like, have you been away somewhere? Because you have a little bit of that. There's a lot of Australians in London.
Yeah.
And you have a little bit of that East Coast Australian living in London for quite a while accent about you.
Yeah.
Americans
don't understand anywhere not American. And I think they just flip a coin about where you're from. I mean,
was he going to say something? It was like,
they really do.
Maybe I don't know if your microphone's fucked up.
Dude, we can hear you just fine.
Oh,
just see, even Australians can't hear me. That's how bad my accent is.
Did my speakers just explode? I don't know.
This is really sensational. This goes so well. Welcome again to Professional Podcast. As frequent viewers and listeners may recall, we took a break to professionalize, to think about how we were going to take the podcast forward, and this is the result. But wait, we look. Hey, look. Okay, we're less than 4 minutes in. We've already talked to our guest. We've acknowledged our guest. This is the new professionalism you can come to expect from us. PFC, we know you from working in the Cosmos.
Yeah.
Is that your home ecosystem? Is that the first area that you? How did you get into validating? What's the deal with that?
There was a guy called Pete. Noel still.
I know Pete.
Yeah. So, and I came, and he just kept on telling me about this chain called Luna. So, the first way I got introduced to Luna was via a D&D game. It was all about the moon. So Pete created this D&D game. It had the moon and all this kind of stuff, and that's how we, this I was working with him at the time, and he introduced me to Luna. I said, nah, forget about it. 3 months later, I was tracking the price and said, oh fuck. And basically I should have grabbed it in then. And I went in and made a validator, because there was like 15 validators or 20 validators at the time. So I was 21. Got in there, learnt it, ran on a little NUC to start with. And that was how I got into the Cosmos world. Validator number 2 was Injective, maybe 6 months afterwards. So, it was all good. And slowly but surely, just learnt different things and just expanded and, got that. And, and then Luna went all to shit, as I'm not going to revisit that one. And just as I was getting into the Lido validator set too, which kind of irked me, because they were the ones who basically had all the anchor lending. All the deposits were sitting in Lido-based validators. Mm-hmm. That's where they delegate. I was just about to get into it, just about to look at retirement and yachts and whatever, and it all went down. So but luckily for me, Injective went from $4 I think to 20 at the time, and saved my bacon.
I think there's quite a bit of from validators that have ridden out the bear market. Like, quite a common story is no matter how many networks you run, at any given time, there's one that's doing well, one that's absorbing the majority of your effort while not doing well, and then a miscellaneous school of cats that you heard that are mainly shitting on your carpet. But
the good old $1 a week validators. They generate $1 a week, and you look at them and going, why? I'm not going to mention Chihuahua by name or stars, but
some people did make money off Chihuahua.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Really,
I mean, I'm pretty sure that Kingnode, Big Balls blockchain.
Yeah. Oh, he did. I mean, we've had discussions about it, and that's he made his money. And there are other ones like Kuji where you make $1 and then they do a token drop or an airdrop based on on you being a validator, and just making like 20 to 30K in one day. So, yeah, you didn't get that one. That was the nutsack one.
I've got an airdrop.
Yeah.
Did I make the money?
Yeah. So,
wait, I made money? Said no.
So what?
But
I didn't get the email.
No, I just got the token drop. But so it's interesting. It's getting way more competitive, and every time there's a new test net, there's like 1 million people joining or jumping in, and it's an interesting game, as I'm sure you guys are aware.
Yeah, what's your feeling about how things are changing at the moment? What are the challenges that you're seeing as an independent operator?
It's more just reach or business development. You have to be able to know when the chains come up, and you have to form little communities to actually be aware of when things come in. And it's networking. So on a non-Cosmos chain, somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, I've heard you are good. Would you mind validating?" 6 months later on their test net, and they went main, and it's a nice little earner. That was getting $6,000 to $1,000 a week on that, and still doing it. And that's non-Cosmos, and that was just an introduction that somebody made based on friendship or whatever. Mm-hmm. In there,
friendship or whatever being again a fantastically Aussie way of looking.
Yeah, and so it's that. I mean, the actual technical component isn't as challenging anymore. I mean, running the first one or two, after you've run them for a couple of months, for me, it was more, you start getting experience. You learn new things as it goes along, but it's more about, for me, it's more about just optimizing. How can you actually, squeeze yet another validator on the same node and they still perform, and how do you make sure you're current with, I don't know, Kubernetes ingress hacks and before they get hacked. Thank you, by the way, Rhino, for that one.
No worries.
That was a fun day. And then it's the joy of waking up at 3 a.m. for a good old IBC vulnerability, and just how do you do upgrades across 20 different chains or 15 different chains all at the same time while retaining your sanity.
What possessed you to start using Kubernetes? That seems like so much overkill to me.
I was running it individually on single machines and just managing it, and I had previous experience with Kubernetes. So I used to work at a company with EOS on there, and they were a very strong Kubernetes culture there. So I learned that and I knew it, and I just installed it on 3 boxes and just kept on moving. The challenge with it is basically the disk scheduling for me. Everything else just works. I mean, I have my configurations in Git. I basically, if I do an upgrade, I build up the Docker container, I upgrade the Git version to point to it, and that's about it. So it doesn't use Cosmovisor, it uses something slightly different. But
what is the actual challenge with disk scheduling?
On Kubernetes,
is it like an IOPS thing, just making sure that you're not slamming the same shit too much, or?
2 things. One, you can't schedule based on IOPS. Well, you may. I haven't found out how to. So you can have machines which are basically overwhelmed on Disk.io, and you can't see it in the dashboard. The second thing is, if you want to get your nodes fast, you have to have local disk.
Mm-hmm.
So no NFS, no sharing, and all that kind of stuff, no replicating. So one of my first challenges was I was using a replicated file system, and it was great for reliability, but the machines just sucked. So you could run 2 nodes if that. They said, screw it, let's go and get some disk, mirror it, and go to local. So I'm using LVS on the boxes, and they run fine. I'm running the say testnet via Kubernetes now. The injective testnet, when I have it up, is also running via Kubernetes. And the great thing about it is, if a machine dies, I just destroy the disk allocation in Kubernetes, find a new snapshot somewhere, and it just finds another machine with the right amount of disk, and it just picks it up.
So are you running like your own hardware for your Kubernetes, or do you run like same data center from a bare metal provider, or how do you figure that out?
So I run OVH and LeaseWeb, so I rent machines from them. I used to do it by Hetzner, but they kind of got a bit snarky at me when I was running, I think it was Avalanche, and I misconfigured something. I was using port 8545, and that's one of their network monitors. They've got a couple of other ones, and they said they sent me a letter saying, please explain, which was nice of them. I was running on their hardware for 3 years, and I said, okay, that was my little notice to remove myself. And so I'm running in 4 different data centers in OVH, and I think 1 or 2 in LeaseWeb at the moment.
So I think the good thing about OVH is they have like a pretty decent private network bandwidth.
Yeah.
Which would be ideal for Kubernetes, right?
I don't use that. I'm just using the public one. I haven't. Again, it's just easy. It's simpler. I'm trying to make it so I don't have to think, because thinking is hard. They do have a private network, but most of the nodes are public facing, and they've got IP tables and security at that level. And
so is everything like meshed together as one big Kubernetes cluster? Or?
Yeah. So there's 2 different options. The way I could have done it is I could have had 3 data centers, each one of them being their own unique data center, and then basically have the cross connect at the Horcrux level, so to speak. Or I could basically just have one big data center, and what I have in the actual pod specification is affinities. So what I have in most of them, I have what they call an anti-affinity, which is basically do not do this. And I say do not run a node if there already is a node of that type running or in that zone. What I call it a zone, but it's a data center. Mm-hmm. So then, for example, what I do is for the Terra one, I basically go, say don't run another Terra node in here. And the rules don't have to be super complex, but I can do it at the zone level. I could have done it at the provider level, but because I've only got 2 providers now, I just do it at the zones. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. It's not perfect, but it kind of works.
I don't know. That seems pretty sweet. It just spins up another one if it happens to be it goes down.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
I mean, that's the dream, isn't it? Do you find with that setup any problems with the fact that obviously a lot of these services are quite well, especially smart contract chains quite often are very heavy on, say, RAM requirements or whatever. And do you find that you're running fewer larger boxes to get around that in terms of making resources available to the cluster, or are you still erring on the side of redundancy in terms of box provisions and just relying on the scheduler to figure out how to cut it?
Basically, letting the scheduler do its job, and it figures that kind of stuff out. When you start a node, you say, I would like to have this much memory and this much CPU. So typically I start with 16 gig. Say, I'm looking for a spare 16 gig, so it will only do, I think the machine's running 128 gigs, so 128 divided by 16 is the theoretical limit. And that's how many you can do. And it just finds them. At the moment, I'm probably over capacity, because every time I add one, it doesn't complain. So, I add another Thor node on there and just said, okay. And it was like, obviously I've got too many machines. So it's fine. But I'd rather have a little bit too many, because when 1 or 2 goes down, it's much easier just to deal with it. But I mean,
right.
Looking at my machine now, this one's a bad one. It's got a load average of 17. Again, disk IO. But it seems to be running. Let me go to one which isn't wildly going. Oh, look, my servers are no. I've got a load average of 4. Let me see how many different. It's running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 validators on it at the moment. That's a node with 128 gig.
Right, nice. I guess like one of the things that it's like those times that kind of a setup with that kind of automation is something I've looked into before in the past for what we do, but like we basically found that the requirements of the different networks we run are so you're like, okay, even if the capacity they actually need to run is maybe a lot less than the advertised, if you have like let's say foundation delegation that requires X amount of capacity and provisioning, and there's some way of kind of well, I guess they're relying on your honesty, really, aren't they? But you're relying on this really, really lopsided provision of capacity. I can never quite work out how to cut that. It always just ended up being easy to just go, oh, well, just one box, one client when it's that big. And then after that, you're like, well, there's no point running Kubernetes just for the Cosmos networks, right? Which all have similar requirements, or at least that was the way I kind of ended up.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at that box that I was talking about. It's also got an Avalanche and a Thor node on there too, just FYI. So again, the way I get it right in my head is if Injective had a massive spike. Injective's not running on this; it's got its own hardware. But if Terra had a massive spike, there's enough spare memory on those machines combined to allow it to have its spike. A ride chain, for example, notoriously gets up to 30, 100, gets up to 64, 96 gigs sometimes. It's just the way it works. And it lets it have its spike and it goes down. Now, if every single Cosmos network was going to have spikes at the same time, that might not work as well.
Yeah, fair.
Now I'm going to get all the foundation delegations to me just going whoosh. But
I disagree. I mean, I know you're just joking about the foundation delegations, but there are very few that run Kubernetes. I can think of like 3 offhand. There's like the Nibiru team. No, I think you were pursuing Kubernetes for a little bit, right? Or at least you flirted with it.
Yeah, I had to look at Kubernetes for a particular network, and like we didn't use it. Just because it's at the moment it's a learning curve for me. It's like I need time to figure all of that out. It's not something that I can just do right away. But also, you know, you need to dedicate a certain amount of resource to it, and it has to be, you know, the juice has to be worth the squeeze at the time. So
it is a pretty good fit for Cosmos nodes, though. Like for Cosmos, I think it starts to. I mean, we run a bunch of Avalanche as well, and I could see that. Like when you have a node that takes, you know, it's 7 terabytes of data and it's sucking down half the cores and half the RAM, like you kind of lose the need versus just regular automation. You know what I mean? But Cosmos nodes, especially if you're running vals, because then you're state syncing them and you're moving around. I don't care. And Horcrux is dealing signing. Like that containerization and orchestration makes a lot of sense. I think global RPC and some of these other types of things, it seems like to me, it seems like it would get in the way. But for like running vals, that's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, I have had challenges running Polygon.
Yeah.
And I need to move off. I mean, I'm currently running it on Kubernetes, but I need to move that off. Injective, say, I wouldn't even dream of using Kubernetes for their mainnets and stuff like that. They're just too big.
Yeah. Especially, say it might not be bad now with CDB and everything, because it's not that hungry, and it state syncs fast and things like that, where you could like keep the container somewhat, you know, keep the data somewhat small, but it does need the resources, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, every day in the morning I check which containers are running out of disk space and remedy them, and that's basically my daily chore. You know, for an operational run book, it's just basically see what's about to run out, and because everything's running Horcrux, if a machine dies, it's not the end of the world.
And then all the, since it's in one Kubernetes cluster, that means all the containers can DNS themselves, right? You have a single namespace to get across all machines. Is that right? You
can. What you can also do is limit it by namespace. So, for example, you can put security controllers in. So, in this pod, you have this security context, so to speak, and give it permissions like you cannot look outside your namespace. So, because it's a fairly private, and again, you know, if I do this again, I might do something like that. I'd change the layout a little bit of how I design namespaces and do that stuff. But at the moment, it's fine. For me, the concern, I'm not too concerned about them being able to access each other, because, you know, the code that they have is fairly self-contained. Unless you get into a place where you have a rogue network and they all of a sudden start doing port sniffing and end mapping around and starting attacking other nodes inside. I mean, possibly. I mean, I stopped running those kind of networks a while ago. But I'm not as concerned. My security posture on this might be a bit more optimistic than others. You know, mainly, you know, if my validator goes down, it'll screw up the people who delegate to it, which sucks, and I don't want that. But it's not going to screw up the network, because I don't have 50% or 100% running. There is one network I run by myself, as in it's like a 4-node validator set for somebody. That presents its own issues, because you have, for seeding and for peering, you have to actually go outside the network to get the real IP addresses so that they can do discovery. So that's probably one of the challenges of Kubernetes. If you run the entire network, you need at least 1 or 2 machines out there. But yeah, I mean, it's been working quite well. I probably need to look at the machine hardware now, because my delegations have decreased and the market's gone down, and I need to basically, you know, look at my costs a bit more, as one does. But overall, it's served me well.
That's cool. And so if nodes, if you have a Horcrux structure and one of those, you need to move those, or one of those Horcrux nodes is on a machine that's dying, or if it's talking to an end node that's on a machine that's dying, you can replace those. How do you deal with like Horcrux situations if you have failures on those types of things?
I delete the PVC on it, and just hit Control Delete on the pod.
Okay, so you just regenerate it.
Regenerate it. It works. Okay. The challenge for double signing is still, because there's 2 nodes and it's done by DNS. So my configurations are DNS based. It will look for the DNS, and I haven't had a chance. You know, again, touch wood. most of the challenges with Horcrux is when you upgrade versions for me, and that's where it's like that. Or then you just do it the old-fashioned way. You delete all the Horcruxes and you bring them back up again.
Bring them all up again. Yeah.
Yeah. The challenge sometimes can be where you have, three sentries running in the network, and they cross over the Horcruxes.
Mm-hmm.
So you have going from DC1 and the Horcruxes in DC2, and then DC2's Horcruxes in DC1.
Mm-hmm.
That can confuse it, especially when a DC goes down, which has happened. But overall, it was annoying more than anything else.
Yeah. Yep, that's cool. Makes sense. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, the Horcrux should be the one thing that I would consider moving across. That, and I run a ton of containers for another chain that it probably has 50 containers on it, and that would be great to move into that situation, because all those are just basically external adapters, and they just take RPC requests. So the ability to have that should be in Kubernetes. So that would be great, because then that literally it totally could survive anything and be able to move those things around, and the namespace aspect of things versus just having those are all just Ansibleized, but they're still running on a single machine, which would be great to be able to distribute out and do some smarter things with.
What you also should be looking at is probably how you can do multiple user levels. So then, one of the things which is getting me is how can I basically get a DevOps, hire another DevOps, and not let them have access to the Horcruxes?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, what can they do? They can screw up a node. Oh, well, but they haven't got access to the keys. And, then it's just like, yeah, I shot myself in the foot, but they can't steal my business.
Yeah, we do that. We do that through VLAN segmentation.
Yeah.
And there's some IAM stuff associated to that. So that's definitely it's nice to be able to say, I mean, when we can, but we do have different layers for who can get into what, and how. And so that's a great piece in there too. And I know Kate has the ability to do that, right? You can control that. I don't remember what that's actually called, but I know you can kind of build some different layers of access within there.
But that's the beauty of the Cosmos network. You can do that. I mean, go to Ethereum and everything the same little bit. All the private keys are all embedded into it. They haven't got multi-signing type facility. It's sucky. I'll say it's antiquated, but it is antiquated.
Yeah, I mean, you have Web3 signer and things like that, where you can have a third-party node that carries keys, which we use here and there. But yeah, there's no MPC type structure, right? There's nothing you can do other than be a part of a Lido SSV network that doesn't make any money. But it's all trade-offs.
Hey man, it makes some money. What are you talking about?
That's true. Well, we're not live yet, so I can say that.
Just don't do the math.
Don't do the math. It's a good 5 of 7. Yeah, we could take 2 nodes down. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's all fine.
So then, last question from me is on what do you run on the hardware itself?
I was initially going to rerunning Talos.
Yeah.
It looked like a dream thing. It basically it's a small footprint designed to run Kubernetes under, fully, and it's got huge security things. But due to the way that they need a separate system disk and stuff like that. So you need a smaller system disk, and then the bigger, larger ones. And Hetzner at the time, you just basically got one disk, or you got one size disk, so you couldn't actually configure that. Thank you, Hetzner. So I'm just running Ubuntu.
Oh, okay. So it's just based on Ubuntu. So I mean, those other ones, do they give you the firewall controls and 2D and things like that you can control the base hardware at that level? Because some of those things you still want to do some hardware tweaks and make sure you have some layers on there.
I have a syscontrol tweaks that I do. I think that's they're actually in GitHub.
Yeah.
And I have something on the network adapter level just to open up the size of the packets.
Yeah.
Those are the real. Yeah. Those are probably the only two. There was a guy on Secret who basically gave a recommendation of how to performance tune the box at that level, and I use that. Otherwise, it's just LVMs.
I think that guy was Todd, by the way.
Yeah, Todd. Thank you.
It was Blockpain. Yeah.
Yeah, it was him, and I've definitely use that kind of stuff. Haven't really heard much from him recently. I don't know what he's up to.
He hopped out last year.
Yeah. He decided he was done.
Yeah.
Fair call.
Yeah. That's cool. So you do that. You do that on the Ubuntu side. I just never know those other Kubernetes like base images like Telos and things like that. I've heard some of those that are. I just don't know if they're really architected to be in a public IP space. You know what I mean? Or are they really meant to be in a private data center that has hardware firewalls and you have less shit hanging out in the wind.
So inside of Kubernetes, you have Cilium as well, and that has some fine-grained.
For the host.
So most of the stuff is all the communications all natted.
Oh, that's cool.
Between the machines and the clusters.
Yeah.
So you don't, they communicate a lot, but most of the stuff is natted. Every once in a while, it hiccuped, and I'd see like these 1010 IP addresses with 84545 being registered, and that's basically what Hetzner logged. Yeah. So it could basically see the internal communication on the 1010. But again, I'm not running billions and billions of dollars. If you're going to start, spoofing that, and maybe it becomes an issue then. But I trust my data centers to do network segmentation to the best of their ability.
Sure. And
judging from what I can see, they do.
Yep, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I gotta mess with it because my experience has always been like in a public cloud. You know what I mean? Like easy to fire up in AWS, or back in the days to use Linode before they got bought by Alchemy. And those are nice things you could point a help chart to, and it just worked. You know what I mean? Like hey, I want 3 nodes, or I want this, here's my disk and this and that. But as the Fray knows, that gets pretty pricey, pretty effing quick. And so to be able to actually use some of that in maybe a mix of cloud and bare metal, which is actually that's actually what I was thinking was, it would be nice to split environments if possible, in some of those senses, because it'd be nice to have some things on some cloud managed type of infrastructure, and then also have some nodes that are on bare metal, just so it's not all cloud, and have the ability to move things around, or have the things be able to, if there was an outage, be able to recreate certain containers in different environments. But that's as far as I got, and I was like, we'll see.
Yeah, it would have been really cool if I could have had like one of the for Google's Google's Kubernetes, have one of those controllers built in, and then just say, well, and here's another data center out of Google, or here's one in Amazon.
Right.
Let them talk to each other. And that way, if Google goes down, or Google decides to be anti-crypto, then they're not, because they're fully supporting crypto and they're launching validators now.
Come for jobs.
Yeah. Do that, but yeah. So,
how often do you have to manually interfere with a node that goes down?
Rarely, maybe once a month, if. Now for security releases, the machines get rebooted, and that happens. On a security release, some of the pods get stuck on there, so I have to recognize that, and I get alerted, and I have to just restart the pod.
Yeah,
that's a level what happens when a machine reboots. Sometimes, sometimes the machine itself hangs. God knows why. And then I have to either go into the IPM, what's it called? The serial port.
KVM?
KPMI or something like that. I can't remember.
IPMI,
IPMI, and just go in there and figure out what's going on. But for the most part, it looks okay. Sometimes it's, one of the machines, Ubuntu doesn't update properly because something about grub. There was something in Ubuntu 22 where it had some grub dependency or something, and I've still got some of the boxes running Ubuntu 22, so that's that's one of the annoying things. But typically the Kubernetes boxes, most of them just auto restart, so they'll just reboot themselves when there's a security update. For certain things, I don't want that, so I've made it so that they don't auto reboot. They auto apply the security patches, but they don't auto reboot.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm usually just waiting for in Thornode, you have a thing called churning out. So the way the validator set works is different. But if you're the lowest active in the active set, you're the worst performing or the oldest, and I think there's another reason, you get churned out you might get churned out. They do that every 3 days, and then you get churned back in again. So when you get churned out, that's when you can restart the machines, apply patches, and start configuring things. So I'm waiting for 2 of the nodes to churn out now because of things I need to do. And you also can't unbond when they're churned in either. It's a different network setup, and pros and cons and all that. But so it's just a matter of waiting for those when they get there, and I can get them to leave, but that means losing money. And it's not critical.
Right.
I mean, one of them I misconfigured it, and the actual Thor nodes running on a machine I was going to get rid of. So the only thing running on it now is that little Thor node, and I really don't want to have the downtime. So it's just going to sit there until it churns out, and then I just delete the PVC, the disk volume, and restart it, and just reboots itself. So
It's cool.
So no,
Suddenly I find myself way more interested in using Kubernetes.
Yeah. I mean, the other key thing, is, the plane trips. Flying 15 hours when there's no Wi-Fi can get nervous.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's fine. That's probably the only gotcha I've got really on this setup. And for whatever reason, it's one direction flying back from Australia has no Wi-Fi. The way you're in, it has Wi-Fi, so it's good.
This is why I don't go to the States anymore.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with like the leadership or tips.
No, we love our fearless leader. We can't complain, because if we do as a non-citizen, we might not be let back in.
Might end up in fucking Guantanamo.
Yeah.
Or El Salvador.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
But no, I'm for all your avid listeners, I'll be in Paris Blockchain Week, and also in Consensus in Toronto. So I'll be going to those places. So hopefully we'll catch some Cosmos people there.
Going to Consensus Toronto.
I nearly went to PBW and then didn't because there was other. Yeah, I didn't know anybody going particularly, so I was just like, oh, okay. Nobody seems that psyched about it, so I won't bother, even though it's just on the train.
Well, this is in May.
I think KBW is the one for me this year.
KBW?
Korea Blockchain Week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon it's going to be pretty good over this side of the world.
What about the Token 2049 in Singapore?
Yeah, I think that's the other one I want to go to as well.
Yeah.
And maybe Dev Connect over in, I think it's in Singapore as well.
Yeah.
So KBW is in September. Consensus Toronto, if you're going up there, I might go up there. I didn't know that was even, I think I looked at this last year, but that might be something to go to. I'm pretty close.
Are there multiple consensuses?
Yeah.
Or are they just moving around?
There's one in Hong Kong as well, I think.
There's usually multiple, but is the one in Austin still happening? Or do they just move it?
I think it was moved from Austin this year.
Really?
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah.
To where?
Toronto.
Toronto.
Mm-hmm. That's
Like
Canada.
Under
Canada?
the assumption that
No.
Canada will be a part of the United States by then.
The 53rd state.
Isn't it already? I mean, wait, isn't Canada a state?
I mean,
Soon.
you can't joke.
Yeah.
You want to be careful about joking about that, because as members of the Commonwealth, we're all going to be in the trenches defending Canada against America. It's going to be like,
It is turning to be an interesting world order. That is for sure.
yeah.
Definitely life is becoming interesting.
You'll have to border hop PFC. You'll have to
Hey, I
jump
wonder
over
if
there to Winnipeg.
I wonder if MEXC works in Canada, because all my VPNs don't work with MEXC anymore. When I was in Australia, it was great. I didn't have to use a VPN. Things just worked.
You could almost just get a Canadian SIM from where you are and like jump into like Ontario's network, right?
Just
Yeah.
hang around by the border with your
Manitoba.
phone. Yeah, just being
I got looped in.
cell tower.
Yeah, I got looped in. What was his name? The Osmos guy who's got the tattoo into an encrypted SIM discussion. Jacob, yes, he looped me in onto an encrypted SIM discussion, which is really interesting. But it's like my phone is blowing up, and Signal, when it comes up, I just get 50 messages on 50 different things, because the one great thing about Signal is you need to make sure it's on multiple devices just so that everybody can see it.
Yep.
But yeah, he was talking about encrypted SIMs. There's like free SIMs and all that, but Canadian SIM might be it. I'll shove my VPN in there and just see if I can get Wi-Fi signal from where I am. Wi-Fi works that far.
It makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Or just like stick a VPN from yourself on one of your little Kubernetes containers, and then happy days.
That would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing, and then I can use MEXC.
Own VPN, baby.
Yeah. No, I mean the Paris and Toronto ones, because they're tourist destinations.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the other thing was, instead of Paris Blockchain Week, because it's fucking expensive in Paris. Although actually, what I'm about to say next doesn't make a lick of sense if that's your reason. But ETHCC is in Cannes, on the French Riviera in the middle of fucking summer. So quite literally a holiday.
Yeah, I mean, these people go to these tourist destinations in the name of just fact finding. I mean, I would never just fly to a tourist hotspot in Australia and just sit there for a week or two. That's the one cultural difference that I appreciate in Australia. Sitting on the beach in where was it? Noosa. Just watching the birds go by, so to speak, versus it was great. I mean, I could do this. I had my laptop out from overlooking the beach and just watching.
Got you a Mai Tai?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of them are tourists, all of them are foreign, and you have a great cultural appeal. Tons of different things to see.
Noosa is a pretty good spot for bird watching too.
Exactly.
Big national forest there, right on the headland. Yeah.
Is that? I didn't realize. Yeah, maybe. But yes, it is great. And then you go down to Broad Beach and you see it, and the cultural norms change as you go further south. So.
Yeah, actually, Noosa is a fair way up. Well, it is a fair way up there.
Yeah.
It's at least halfway.
Yeah.
Jesus, man. God. As you go north, I'm just looking at the map and I'm sweating as I look further north to like Townsville and Cairns. It's fucking hot up there.
Yeah. We were planning. So my wife is a native from here, so I live in the Midwest, and it's very cold typically, although it's like 16 degrees at the moment Celsius, but typically should be 0 now. But it gets down to negatives. So she's not used to the heat. So we took her up to Noosa, and that was her limit. Even that was above her limit. It was just too humid. And we were planning to go up to Townsville and Cairns, which are even worse. And luckily not luckily, but they got flooded a week before we left. So we just did a major U-turn and drove down to Sydney instead.
The humidity in Cairns is what kills you. It is fucking so humid up there. The humidity. Also, like, quite close to the equator.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Melbourne, so the heat didn't bother me. It was the humidity. Just a nice dry heat. I miss that.
Well, sometimes later that day it's a rainstorm. And
that is true.
Later on that day, you'll probably have some snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been up that far north like twice in my life.
Okay.
Once to Darwin or Northern Territory, and once to Cairns/Port Douglas.
I've been to fucking Port Douglas.
Have you?
Yeah.
I love Port Douglas
Wow.
and Palm Cove.
Go see the Daintree. Go on that train, the train that goes into the forest. You know me, I like a train.
Yeah.
The one that goes up the old. Was it the mining railway? Or was it the? It was a working train, wasn't it, for doing something in the rainforest? I can't remember what though. Was it? Must have been mining.
Not gonna lie, I never caught the train, but Daintree is a massive rainforest.
Yeah. But I'm sure they've got mining there somewhere. And, if Australians can't dig it out, then it can't be dug out.
It's like the Kuranda Tourist Railway or something now. Like it used to have stations on it, but basically just takes you to one town.
Is this the one like on top of the mountain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. It's good. It's nice. It's like just a thing to do. It's cool.
There's some good four-wheel drive tracks right up north there, like the old telegraph track and stuff. You get right up there.
I saw the arse of one of those. What's the fucking dinosaur killer bird?
Cassowary.
Cassowary. Saw the arse of a cassowary disappearing into the bush at one point. My wife was just like, "That's a fucking cassowary." I was like, "Huh?" And by the time I turned around, it was like just this bum.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about Far North Queensland. They've got big signs: "Do not swim here." Right next to where you can see some towels and all that kind of stuff of people swimming.
Yeah, there's also when I was there, it was like box jellyfish season, so it was like really like the signs were like, "Do not fucking go in the water or you will die immediately." I was like, "Fucking Australia, man! What the fuck? Like, can't do anything here."
Most of the north you can't swim in like year round. On the northeast, there's fucking crocodiles and box jellyfish in Irukandji.
There were signs everywhere in like the wharf bits around where there were like people getting on and off boats and shit. It was just like, "Don't go in the fucking water. There's crocs here."
Yeah.
And then
Don't pull up. Don't pull up.
and you're like, "Oh right, yeah, winding up the tourists."
Look, if you see a croc,
people attend the boats are like, "That's a croc, literally right there, that log. That's a fucking croc," and you're like, "Oh, it does look a little bit like a crocodile, actually." And they're like, "Yeah, because it's a fucking crocodile." You're like, "Man, Australia is so full of dangerous shit. What the fuck?"
Yeah, but it's okay because if you see a croc or one of those things, just run into a school. They're safe.
What?
As opposed to other countries where you run out of school. Anyway, fell flat. There's not enough Americans.
Oh,
sorry.
Huh?
That one alone. Yeah,
that one's over my head as well.
just Google "Are schools safe?" USA will find out what I mean.
or Texas more specifically.
Yeah, Texas is a great place. But yeah, we went to Australia Zoo while we were there, and yes, they had the croc shows and all that kind of stuff. But there was two of the guys actually trying to clean out one of the croc pits while there was two crocs in there, and you could just see, they had their routines. But as soon as one of them went in the water, they both, took 2 steps back, tried to get it back out of the water so they could see where it was before they kept on doing it. So, yeah, the threat is real.
Crazy stuff. So, like, back off of Australian dangerous shit. And what do you, aside from obviously seeing the sites, which is obviously not something you would do on a business trip, but like, what's your main, like, what's the thing you're most excited about the conference season? I mean, it's something we talk about, like, perhaps too much on the podcast. Like, what are you interested in? But is it mainly like sort of new networks and getting a feel for things, or is there something specific where you're like, I mean, other than the obvious shit, right? Which is that we all run businesses, so networking.
It's networking. I mean, I missed the ETH Denver, so catching up with people if they're there, seeing if there's new chains out there, and just seeing what's interesting. There's always something going on in the space, and you have to go to these places just to hear what they are.
What are the use cases that like have been interesting you the most over the last year or so?
God, it's like I've been asleep for 6 months. But some of the, I've always got an ear out for encryption and privacy type chains because I think they're super interesting. Stuff around finance. Are there any more interesting finance applications? I'm still looking for stuff to help displace banking, so lending pools and stuff like that, and seeing how people doing that stuff. How are people approaching credit? So those are the things I'm looking for, to see how people have done those kind of things. The ZK stuff is interesting, but it's like, it doesn't solve a lot of the problems. Everyone says, "Oh, ZK will solve this," and they go, "Well, no, it doesn't." I'm looking at how can a bank actually run on a blockchain, or do something on a blockchain that they do today. And ZK doesn't help for a lot of this stuff. That's probably the more interesting thing. But then it's just more just networking and try to get some new leads. The number of test nets I'm running on is drying up, and I need some more, and just need to get into different places. I'm finding out too late about new networks, and that kind of sucks. Because by the time I find out that, sorry, we've already got 1,000 applications.
How will you be able to burn your cache if you don't have a steady flow of test nets coming through the door?
No. There's a thing called ThorChain. You put your money in there when it's $4 or $7. And I did it with Luna beforehand. It was great. And I now did it with ThorChain. So anyway, I shouldn't, they'll probably piss me off. But at the moment, they've actually got a really great story coming through. I'm looking forward to the Rugera upgrade. So hopefully that will make my money back.
Can you explain Rugera to me?
Okay. Basically, ThorChain is a DeFi swap space where you basically swap coin A on network A to coin B on network B. What they're trying to do is add some finance applications inside the actual network itself, so that while you have access to a Bitcoin or a AVAX or whatever, you can actually do something with your coin in the middle, as opposed to just swapping them. So they're adding some functionality. So Rugera was an order book. It has there's some perps going on with that and various other finance applications that they took off the Kujira network, and they're basically bringing it across. From a technical perspective, they should be running with ThorChain's security model. So they'll basically have that level of network activity on there. I don't think there's another Rugera node that you run. It's basically the ThorNet node operators will just run the Rugera node if they need it, and so on. So it's a DeFi chain. So it's basically all the stuff that was on Kujira, they've upgraded, and it will now work on ThorChain, which is, again, it's a ThorChain under the covers is a SDK 50 network. They've got other bits, but that's the majority of it.
Because Kujira is effectively abandoned now, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I've not seen any dev activity there in like 2 years.
So is it L2? It's not L2, right? It's not like an ICS type structure.
No, I think it's actually, I don't know exactly how it's supposed to operate. I haven't paid that much attention to the technical things about how it will work, but they do something.
Okay.
It could be running an L2. That might be the easiest way.
Or at least, or there might be there's some sort of finality on ThorChain, I guess, is what has to happen, right? But
I believe so.
But the Rugera, but it is a separate blockchain. Like, so they are still keeping along some of the Kujira chain specifics, and running, I guess, the new site on that chain. Is that right?
Yeah, it'll definitely, because they've got smart contracts, and they'll be very permissioned smart contracts. So Kujira had some permission ones, but I think it will work like that. They'll have like their own their VM in there, and they'll run that. I don't think there's any custom modules. They're really close. I think 3.4 is supposed to be the one that they release on, because there was like one or two little things. Strangelove's actually building it. They'll be the right people to talk to.
Yeah, I think,
So it's not just ThorChain integrating a smart contract VM and then launching Kujira's contracts in permission mode. Then
I don't know. It could be, but my understanding was it's slightly different.
it's more than that. Yeah, I think Jack and team have been working on Thor for about a year or something like that. It feels like it's been a while. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I don't think I even knew. I mean, until the Kujira thing happened, I didn't even know ThorChain was a Cosmos WASM chain.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and they use, it's just a standard Tendermint chain. There's no separate execution layer. It's all Tendermint.
They do that. It's a customized Tendermint, heavily customized. They've changed some of the modules. For example, the staking module is completely changed. The governance is completely changed.
Yeah.
So they started off with Tendermint and they went their own path.
Yeah.
So they got that. The key thing which they do, which is interesting, is they have security vaults. Mm-hmm. So a security vault is 18 nodes. So they have up to 120 nodes running on the network. I think there's like 98 running at the moment.
Yeah.
And they are divided up, and like 18 of the nodes create a vault, a multi-sig vault.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the funds are locked. So when you bond, what you're doing is you're actually contributing to that vault. And when you churn in and out, they change the keys of the multi-sigs and add the new people in and out and all that stuff. So that's the key thing. And they run something called Bifrost, which does that. And that's, I think Bifrost, again, I haven't gone too far into the weeds technically because I just had 100 other things going on. But Bifrost is the one which actually signs all the packages and talks to all the other networks. So that's the agent. So for example, when I'm doing a Bitcoin trade, it's the Bifrost, which is actually communicating to the Bitcoin and talking to it. I think that's how it works.
That's pretty interesting in terms of having the kind of in and out of that 18. It's kind of like after the Helium set went live. That was, I forget what they call that. It's not proof of stake. It's proof of. I don't even know what the hell it is, but the same type of thing. Like you got elected in, and it was random. Like you had, I forget what it was, 41 nodes or something like that got elected in for a specific time period. Say it's 8. That was short. It's like 8 hours or 12 hours or something. And then you produce blocks for that 8 hours, and then it would basically take 10 or 25% and kick them out, and it would randomly pick another 25%. So you could stay in there one time and get kicked out, or you could stay in there for a month. If you were lucky enough to get not kicked out of that 25%. And then that quorum just basically continued, right? And you got elected in. If you're a poor performer, you got booted, all that kind of stuff, which is actually, it's a pretty cool model, actually.
Yeah,
it was very fair. That's for sure. It was a totally fair model in terms of if you earned commissions, or if you were in that consortium or not. That was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's similar. What I'm getting though is there's nothing stopping you running multiple nodes like any other network.
Same. Yep.
And just for cost savings, you have to sometimes. But the churn in and out can be bumpy.
Yeah.
So because they have to all sign that key or sign the new vault, and they've got timeouts. If one of the existing people who wasn't going to get churned out, misses a signature or has something bad, then you have to wait another hour to try again. So, for example, the last one, it's gotten way better, but the last churn, I think it started at 11 p.m. and I woke up at 7 a.m. and it was just finishing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it came in and this has got nothing to do with the actual functionality that the chain provides. It's still basically doing trades and all that stuff. It's more just the nodes themselves are just taking a long time to agree.
Yeah.
So that's irritating. And also, if you're trying to join in, there's a slashing. So typically, if you miss a signature, you get slashed, which if you're in the active set, doesn't cost you anything. But if you're not, and you're trying to join, you actually get some of your bond is taken away. So if you screw up your configuration trying to get in, it will cost you money.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I'm not saying that's perfect, but I do like the idea of like having some different consensus engines that provide, kind of bespoke functionality that meets the need of that chain. Because proof of stake, we're huge fans of proof of stake in this group, especially, distributed proof of stake is like really the end all be all.
And they have very different opinions to how governance works as well. So you haven't got these components where you have like 15% of the staking power who controls the stuff. Every node is one node, one vote. But they have limits to how much bond you can actually have on a node as well.
Sure.
So, yeah.
It's interesting. Like for the governance, is it one node, one vote?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. That's it's been interesting, like seeing evolving of governance and different models for staking recently. And that one node, one vote, I think that's a good thing for a chain rather than the vote weighted staking voted weight is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I mean, if you really want your group to have a say, there's always these outweighted nodes which sort of control most of everything.
Yeah, and it's also what the node actually, what type of things you can vote on. So most of the things you vote on as a node are operational in nature. It's not about grants or there's no treasury that you have the semblance of control over.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been interesting having you on,
Yeah,
and thanks for coming and joining us. We have never done an outro before, so I'm not even sure how to do it.
Okay, I'll just leave then. All right.